First at 11, Deere & Company is responding to former President Donald Trump's threat to put a 200% tariff on products the company tries to sell into the U.S. Trump made the comment during a campaign stop in Pennsylvania on Monday.
It was a moment that sent shockwaves across Wall Street boardrooms and into America's heartlands. John Deere, the renowned green and yellow brand that has been associated with American farming for over 2 centuries, took an unprecedented move. The corporation revealed intentions to move critical manufacturing lines out of the United States and into Mexico. On paper, what appeared to be a strategic expansion swiftly devolved into a political tempest, paving the way for one of the most spectacular clashes between corporate America and political authority in recent memory. John Deere's decision was motivated by cold, hard data. Soaring manufacturing costs, clogged supply chains, and labor shortages were all straining the corporation at home, while competitors overseas forged forward with cheaper, quicker production techniques. Deere maintained that investing $55 million in a modern plant south of the border did not mean leaving America. It was about being competitive in a tough global market. However, previous President Donald Trump did not view this as a plan. It was treachery. Within hours, Trump grasped the opportunity. He spoke out against Deere's decision in rallies, on live television, and on social media. He described it as a smack in the face for American workers. He pledged to apply crushing tariffs of up to 200% on any Deere equipment manufactured outside of the United States. As his statements reverberated across small towns and rural counties, farmers and voters were engaged in a fierce battle between economic realities and political commitment. What began as a corporate declaration had evolved into something far larger. A debate over the future of American manufacturing, populist political promises, and the relentless wave of automation and globalization. The issue now is, whose vision will shape the next chapter of American industry, and at what cost? John Deere's decision did not occur overnight. Behind the headlines and political indignation was a months-long process characterized by difficult boardroom conversations, dismal facts, and the constant strain of a changing global economy. The iconic company's decision to relocate manufacture of some equipment to Mexico does not mean losing its heritage. It was about survival in a world where the cost of doing business in the United States had risen to unsustainable levels. By mid-2024, Deere's leadership was facing a gloomy reality. Manufacturing expenses in America have skyrocketed. The cost of raw materials skyrocketed. Domestic freight became unreliable, and supply lines that formerly functioned like clockwork were tangled in unending delays. Add to it a persistent labor shortage, which no amount of hiring incentives or salary increases appeared to be able to alleviate, and Deere found itself at a crossroads. Meanwhile, the competitors were not waiting. Global competitors such as Japan's Kubota and India's Mahindra had already perfected low-cost, high-efficiency manufacturing in Asia. They were flooding the market with inexpensive, dependable machinery. If Deere did not respond, it faced losing position not just internationally, but also domestically. The answer that emerged was Mexico. The idea was ambitious, but calculated. A $55 million investment in a cutting-edge manufacturing plant designed to produce mid-frame skid steer loaders and compact track loaders, which are increasingly in demand on small and mid-sized farms. The area provided what the United States no longer could: labor prices up to 70% cheaper, trained individuals eager to get started, and closeness to rapidly developing agricultural markets in Latin America, particularly Brazil and Argentina. According to Deere's leadership, this was not treachery. It was a strategic shift meant to keep the corporation competitive while retaining the core of its American activities. Indeed, this strategy would affect fewer than 5% of Deere's North American manufacturing. Large tractors, combines, and other essential machinery would continue to roll off lines in Iowa, Illinois, and other U.S. facilities. But after the news broke, none of the nuances mattered. What the public saw was straightforward: a renowned American business relocating employment beyond its borders. And in that instant, John Deere found itself not only in the business of manufacturing machinery, but also at the heart of a political maelstrom. When John Deere's statement hit the radio, Donald Trump pounced. Deere's decision was an ideal target for a candidate who established his political identity on vows to safeguard American jobs and penalize firms who exported them. Trump spoke bluntly during a rally in Iowa. His voice rang out throughout the heartland as he accused the firm of spitting in the faces of American workers. The ovation was thunderous, but so was the warning he offered next. If Deere carried out its intentions, he would impose a 200% charge on any equipment they dared to bring back across the border. It was vintage Trump, a mix of fury, menace, and theatrics intended to energize his audience and send a message to any other American firm considering following Deere's route. The audience yelled with approval. However, beyond the rallies and media, the political consequences began to spread rapidly. In Washington, Trump's friends wasted no time defending him. Senators from very red states delivered harsh remarks, imploring Deere to rethink. The House Agriculture Committee has scheduled hearings to study the effects of offshore on rural towns. Behind the scenes, murmurs circulated that the White House was looking at methods to guarantee that federal monies did not go toward acquiring Deere equipment manufactured outside of the United States. What started as a corporate plan quickly escalated into a full-fledged political struggle. Meanwhile, in rural America, the very areas that rely on Deere tractors to keep their farms operating, opinions were sharply mixed. The discussion raged on talk radio and in Facebook forums. Some farmers backed Deere, claiming that the corporation had little alternative if it wanted to remain competitive in a tough worldwide market. Others felt deceived, believing that commitment to American workers must come first, no matter the cost. Deere, for its part, refused not to give up. The corporation responded calmly, underlining that the Mexico site will handle only a small portion of its total production. The company's core products, including big tractors, harvesters, and combines, will remain manufactured in the United States. However, Trump was uninterested in subtleties. He reiterated his tariff threat at rallies in Ohio and Pennsylvania, pledging to punish Deere so severely that no other corporation would dare to follow suit. And while the political drama unfolded, Business America kept a careful eye on Deere, wondering whether it would yield under duress or draw a new line in the sand. As the political tempest raged, few appeared willing to face the underlying truth behind John Deere's decision, which extends well beyond Mexico, tariffs, or even Donald Trump's angry rhetoric. The reality is that the manufacturing world has changed, and no amount of political pressure can reverse the trend. On the campaign trail, the promise of bringing jobs back to American industries seems compelling. But in the era of automation, artificial intelligence, and global supply networks, that promise is based on nostalgia rather than reality. John Deere understands this better than most. The corporation is considering not just where it will manufacture its machines, but also how they will be created and who, or rather what, will build them. The future of agriculture is unrelated to geography. It's linked to technology. Deere's self-driving tractors are already working in America's fields with no human driver present. Entire farms are handled by tablets, with artificial intelligence evaluating soil conditions, weather patterns, and crop health in real time. Drones scan for pests, robots apply fertilizer with centimeter precision, and data is effortlessly shared between devices and farmers. In the future, machines don't care if they were built in Iowa, Illinois, or Monterey. What really counts is speed, efficiency, and flexibility. Even if Deere brought all of its factories back to the United States tomorrow, the employment would go to machines rather than people. According to an Oxford economics estimate, up to 20 million industrial jobs might disappear globally by 2030 due to automation. This tendency is just accelerating. Trump's tariff threats may elicit cheers, but they cannot reverse the flow. In fact, by attacking Deere, he may unwittingly boost their position. Because if hefty tariffs are imposed on all foreign-made equipment, Deere's competitors, such as Mahindra, Kubota, and Yanmar, might suffer greatly. After all, Deere still makes the majority of its tractors in the United States. Ironically, the regulation designed to penalize Deere may wind up insulating it against worldwide competition. This debate finally reveals the distance between two visions, one that clings to a past that no longer exists, and one that prepares for a future that has already arrived. It's a conflict between passion and execution, political rhetoric, and the hard logic of contemporary production. And caught in the middle, the American farmer is attempting to determine who, if anyone, is actually fighting for them. As a result, America finds itself at a crossroads, torn between two opposing visions of the future. On one side, you have Donald Trump, who is mobilizing supporters with the promise of reviving a manufacturing golden era that, in many respects, does not exist anymore. His message is straightforward, compelling, and very emotional. Restore jobs, penalize businesses that relocate them elsewhere, and rebuild America's strength. That promise seems like a lifeline to millions of people in these uncertain times. On the other side is John Deere, a corporation that isn't only responding to today's issues, but also planning for tomorrow's realities. For Deere, this is not about betrayal. It's about survival in a world where technology, automation, and global markets are redefining what it means to produce, farm, and compete. Their migration to Mexico is not an escape. It is a development, a strategy shift to remain relevant in a highly competitive, fast-changing environment. The main question is not about tariffs or factories. It is up to America to select which future it wants. Will we cling to nostalgia while punishing those who seek to adapt? Or will we face the harsh realities of where business is headed and discover methods to flourish in that new world? Finally, what happens next will not be determined just by John Deere or Donald Trump. It's you, voters, farmers, and workers. This is more than just a trade war. It is a test of America's vision, resilience, and future preparation. The machines are coming. Politics is already here. What's the choice? That is in our control.